You're listening to the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. Now here's your hosts, Kevin, Derek, and Alex.
All right, and welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. I am Derek, and joined as always by your co-hosts, Kevin and Alex. Gentlemen, how we doing?
Doing all right. Another fantasy season for 90+% of leagues, I would venture these days, is and maybe it's not that quite high because the ESPN default still makes you play in week 8.
Make you play week 18 still? Oh.
Yeah, the default settings do. So maybe it's not quite that high. But all my fantasy leagues are done after right now.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
Another season in the books. Some successful, some nice challenging years, right? There's tons of opportunity to get better, and others we gave it hell and just fell up short. So definitely a mixed bag, but that's what happens when you play in a ton of leagues is you get the good, the bad, and the ugly. So not too shabby. I'm not complaining. And it's a Monday night because of New Year's, but another night here with the boys, right? Being able to talk about it and kind of shoot the breeze with you guys. So I'm doing all right, man. How are y'all doing?
I am all in all, I can't be too upset with how this fantasy football season has ended up. I am claiming a runner-up finish in the home league. Some people being out at very inopportune times really did me in this week. Some key players really did me in this week. I take a third place finish because one guy didn't do enough for me in my work league. So a third place finish there. And then I'm finishing in fourth in my my high school league by 2 points. And honestly, I probably should have checked because I'm pretty sure that's a winner take all league. If it's not a winner take all, I think it's like our league where it's, only the top 2 play. But there's a part of me that thinks that third place might pay. And if that's the case, I kind of just stopped paying attention to that one and left Chuba Hubbard in my lineup. And obviously he was on IR, as a lot of people who rode a surprising Chuba Hubbard season all year. So I'm kind of hopeful that that doesn't pay third place because I'm going to be really upset about that. But when it comes down to it, I played fantasy football for free this year. So when you combine all my winnings, I got 20 weeks of enjoyment, and I did it all for I think more than what I invested. So that's what it comes down to. That I will take that money and reinvest it into next year.
There you go.
Yeah. I ended up walking away with a couple of championships, couple of money leagues there that ended up bringing that home. I lost to Kevin in our zombie league, so congrats to the champ on that one. And then
Brains.
Yes, exactly. And then Kevin and I tag teamed a charity one, and we ended up winning our division on the championship there. So that was kind of fun and cool. And I ended up pulling off something that I had never done in all of my years of playing fantasy football. I finally have claimed something that I hadn't ever done before. And that was I managed to finish the regular season undefeated and claim a championship on that. I had gotten to this point a couple of times before and just never had been able to pull it off. And did that in one of the leagues and did that against a bunch of other industry folks. So feeling pretty good about that one. So.
That is an accomplishment, especially when it's not, your Aunt Doris who doesn't know the Chargers from the Colts, right? Like you're playing against dudes that seemingly dudes and probably maybe some women, I don't know, but you're playing against people that seemingly know what a good fantasy football roster should look like. So to go undefeated there, that's pretty darn impressive.
Yes.
So I'm in that league with Derek, and there are more than enough people who know what the heck's going on.
Yeah.
Right? Some guys that we've had on this show, some guys where we've been on their show, some different leagues that we play with. across the different formats. Like, most of these guys are not foreign to Derek or I. Like, they are heavily involved in fantasy. So it was crazy. Derek pulled it off. It was nuts. Like,
Yeah. And I think Kevin actually gave me my closest game all season long. That almost ended that one back in week 12, where there was a difference of like 0.6 points that separated us. So, but yeah, I was feeling pretty good about that one when Jared Goff decided to throw the 2-point conversion, because that was the point that set that one over. So, feeling pretty good about that one. But any other kind of news notes? Any other thoughts we want to talk about before we start getting into some of the questions and comments here?
No, let's get into these questions and comments, and then I have a question and a comment. So we'll save it for after. I'm gonna type it in the other chat so I don't forget it.
Okay.
Do we not have the other chat anymore?
It's still there.
There it is. I see it. Okay.
Alrighty, there we are. Okay. Terrence over on YouTube, Dobbins over Connor this week, even if he plays. Yeah, I think you can. I don't have a problem with that one there. Connor kind of hurt you a little bit here in that one, and Dobbins certainly looked good here in week 17.
yeah, I'd co-sign Terrence. I'd play Dobbins. Like, we made it to about week 14, the playoffs, before we started having running back injuries, right? With the exception of CMC. With the exception of CMC, but just one in general. Like, and it was the wide receivers who kept getting dinged up. And this year, we started getting injuries and everything else to players starting in week 14. And surprisingly, some of the top end guys who hadn't done much all year long started showing up in correspondence, right? Jonathan Taylor didn't do squat until week 14. Right. Didn't do squat.
Oh.
And he now is a playoff darling because he was a big part. If you had him on your roster and you were able to kind of maneuver around and get into the playoffs and deep into the playoffs, he was probably a big reason why you kept advancing, if not one.
Right.
So JT was huge. And then you had people like Kenneth Walker and AK go down, James Conner kind of being dinged up, and the Cardinals being out of it doesn't help anything, right?
Right.
Chuba
just
going
kind of
on
a mixed
IR.
bag. Chuba, yep. So
David Montgomery going down late.
Montgomery going down.
Monty, absolutely.
Chase Brown exiting that game early. Like,
he had a good game before he exited, though. Like, you're sad, like you feel bad for him and his high ankle sprain, but at least it didn't happen in the first drive. Like, he put up himself a game before he went out.
Right. So
yeah, interesting how it all kind of shook out.
Any other thoughts on this one?
Nah, not for me.
Okay. Terrence saying that they're playing in a default ESPN default league. Yep, which makes sense why the questions on that one there. So good luck to you, Terrence. Hopefully you pull that one out there. Terrence also saying the likelihood of Tua playing this week. Well, the Dolphins aren't eliminated at this point.
They're not. I mean, it's 3 teams vying for one spot, right? It's the Dolphins, the Bengals, and the Broncos, right? All vying for that last wild card spot. So if Tua can go, I mean, they've got to play it. They have to play him. They have. I just don't know if he can go.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, right? They're playing the Jets. The Jets have kind of all but tossed in the towel at this point.
But they've always played well against Tua.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I would be looking for other options, Terrence.
And let me tell you, like, as much as NFL players, really anybody, right? If you've been competitive or you've played in a season long of anything, and you know that you have the ability to end that other team's season, like no matter what happens for you, say you're out of it and you have the ability to make somebody else feel your misery and pain, like there is very few more motivating things than being able to play spoiler. So I know that, the Jets are out of it and who knows what the future for them looks like, but playing spoiler is a very big motivator.
So I would rather play Bryce Young this week than Tua.
Oh, that's a good
in week 18, right? You want to talk about a pivot, a guy who's probably in 60% of waivers available waivers, if not more right now. I'm telling you right now, I would play Bryce Young over Tua.
Okay. Yeah, it's not a bad pivot. Any other thoughts on this one?
Pay attention, but I agree. I think it's worth looking elsewhere.
Okay. George over on YouTube saying, "Hey guys, 2-time consecutive champ, amazing season and tough win. That's awesome.
Good job, George.
Good job. Way to
bring it home. Yeah." So, Jamie saying, "Yo, dudes." Jamie, how's it going? Terrence saying started Connor over Dobbins and Nico over Brian Thomas Jr. leading by 2 points.
Oh, it's a 2-weeker.
Yeah, it's a 2-weeker. And,
be grateful that you're leading by 2.
Correct.
It's easier to be leading, especially knowing that there are points to get.
Right. So
that's nice.
Yeah. Yeah, best of luck on that one. Jamie saying
now that the Colts are eliminated, I mean, with what the Giants just did, I'm getting Brian Thomas in your lineup, Terrence, for next week for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Jamie saying they also have an undefeated championship, but it was against Scrubs. Came in first place in their going for 2 league and second in a 14-team battle of the brands. So nice.
Good job, Jamie.
Congrats, sir.
Yeah, even when you're playing in some of those leagues where the competition may not be as fierce, it's still a lot to being able to pull off an undefeated championship. So,
yeah, it's a lot of pounding the waiver wire, right? A little bit of luck, right? You have to have a little bit of luck in fantasy football. Like nothing's guaranteed. They don't decide games based off of the pre-kickoff projections. Otherwise, I'd probably be a lot happier tonight than what I truly am, because I think through the course of the season, I was only projected to lose 2, maybe 3 times, and then it was just hit or miss of whether my team showed up. I had far too much inconsistency, and I hate inconsistency, and I had far too much of it this year.
Fair enough. Scott over on YouTube, are you guys doing a week 18 show? This would be the week 18 show as far as what we're live for, right? Scott, if you have questions later on in the week, things like that, we're not going to be doing the Friday show, if that's the question, right? This last Friday was the last Friday show. But if there's questions in the meantime, questions later in the week, you can find us on all the socials, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all those places at Good Old Boys FF. You can also even, come back to this show, put your question in there, and we'll get back to you just as quick as we can on that one there. So let us know, hit us up on those. Jamie saying that they won 11 championships out of 35 leagues.
Boy,
great. Yeah, that's a great job.
Great year.
Yep. A 33% win rate. He'd be happy with the 17% making profit. So yeah.
That's an amazing year.
That's what they call a good job. Terry saying Connor cost them a chip. Yeah, it is. That is tough, right? It certainly had gotten you to that point and put up some really good weeks, and that early exit certainly did not help anything there. So that's tough. Terrence over on YouTube saying going against Herbert, Achane, Gibbs, Jennings, Justin Jefferson, Laporta, Zach Charbonnet, the Falcons, and Boswell. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's potential of high octane, right? I'm not so worried about Jennings, but the rest of the lineup, I mean, we've seen Charbonnet go off, we've seen Achane and Gibbs go off, especially with no Montgomery on the Gibbs side, right? The Falcons defense just absolute, or I guess that was 2 weeks ago against the Raiders, right? So Falcons D, who knows if he keeps that or not, but yeah, it's a stout lineup, man. So definitely got to mind your P's and Q's.
Absolutely. Jamie, chiming in to hit that like button with 100 on there. Appreciate that, Jamie. Mario over on YouTube saying, "Good evening, fellas. That Mario won. Woohoo!" And I probably didn't do the woohoo enough justice, but great job,
Right.
Mario.
No, good job, man. Congratulations.
Yeah, those cash and trophies are hard to come by. So great job. Jamie over on YouTube saying that they traded for Taylor in week 14 to help them win the undefeated season. Yeah, that was a good move.
That's the best move. That's a great move right there.
Oh yeah, it was.
Because I bet you got him for probably a very reasonable price because he hadn't done jack squat up to that point.
Absolutely. Terry saying that they vote that we move the championship to week 16. No Hurts, no Kenneth Walker, no Lamb, no Tua, no Chuba, no Monty, no Pollard, etc. Yeah, this one was a week of attrition, is what it felt like for a championship week.
So
it definitely did.
So
definitely.
My work league, the reason why I wasn't in the championship was because I started Jalen Hurts. Now, I had Baker Mayfield in that league, and I probably should have started Baker Mayfield that week, but I started Jalen Hurts, and he went out with that concussion. So that's why I wasn't in the championship of that league. The home league here, the good old boys league, no Kenneth Walker, no Alvin Kamara this week. Like that hurt. That's a name missing from your list there, Terry, is Alvin Kamara there. CeeDee Lamb getting shut down. Chuba, Monty. I had Monty. I was riding Monty in a couple leagues like this. That was rough. That was a really rough week 16 and week 17. They were just dropping like flies there.
Yeah.
Really, really tough.
Yeah, absolutely. Mario saying kudos to Kirby Joseph with the 2 INTs and Jahmyr Gibbs with the touchdown.
Jahmyr Gibbs put up a really, really good season. There's still a game to go, but like Jahmyr Gibbs has put up what I think we all kind of thought he would be last year. And truth be told, if David Montgomery wasn't there, he probably has 6 more touchdowns, right? Like he probably has.
Yeah,
he's probably flirting with 20 total touchdowns if David Montgomery's not a thing. Because like between those two, they have 24 now.
Yeah, they had 12 apiece there at one point.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I mean, and Gibbs has had the yardage to go along with it, right? Monty's just been kind of the touchdown hawk, but worthy on his own because of that touchdown upside. But yeah, this is not your dad's Lions team. I can tell you that much.
Right. Or your grandpa's Lions team.
Or your grandpa's Lions team. Or your great grandpa's Lions teams. This is a different animal.
This is unlike any Lions team you've seen before.
They just set a franchise record in wins, right? They tied the franchise record. They had more. I guess they had 13 coming into tonight, and that was a new franchise record. And now they've got 14. And
it was the first time the Detroit Lions have won on the road against the San Francisco 49ers since 1975.
Like that's insane. What an unbelievable, like Dan Campbell, coach of the year forever. Like
yeah, like kudos to the 4-letter network for pulling that one out. Like that's not a Kevin special. I am pawning that from data that I consumed on the television here earlier today. I had no idea.
That's insane.
1975.
Dude,
it's brutal. So yeah, good for them.
Yeah, that is insane. Terrence saying that Tua sits, it downgrades Achane. Yeah, certainly does.
It didn't help. It didn't help not having him.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, they have big issues moving the ball when Tua's not playing.
Right. Scott saying that they lost in one of my leagues due to a McLaurin had ETN on the bench, which would have gotten me the win. Yeah,
but there's not a snowball's chance in hell that I would have told you to play ETN over McLaurin.
You never.
I drafted ETN and suffered through that thing for most of the year. Like, golly, that was what you want to talk about. One of the busts and one of the guys that I'm not going to flirt with again. It's ETN. Like,
Right.
I'm a good night. What a disappointment that was for such high draft capital. Like, that made a challenging season on the fan and miss there.
And Atlanta's defense isn't awful. They shut down Terry McLaurin, right? Like they shut down Terry McLaurin, and that's what led to, I think, Jaden Daniels running roughshod all over him, and other options opening up. But they made sure that Scary Terry wasn't going to beat him.
Yeah, and for a game that went to overtime.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, there are some theatrics. Game went to overtime, high scoring affair, and for Terry to
just not be there at all,
be completely shut down was really interesting.
Right. Yeah, there was zero chance in the world I would have told you to bench the number 6 wide receiver in half point PPR scoring for the number 40 running back.
Yeah.
No chance on that one.
And kudos to Terry. I would have never, ever told you that he would have finished inside the top 10.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Never. I did not think he had it in him.
Right. Well,
I rookie quarterback, right? We didn't know what that situation was going to look like up there in Washington. Like that was a dumpster fire. The reason you get a quarterback as good as Jaden Daniels is not because you have a stellar team, right? Like because the team, like that team, remarkable. First off, like the Commanders team is remarkable what they've been able to do, and in large part because of that quarterback. But yeah, for him to have that kind of a season when you had no idea what that was going to look like, that's pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, shoot, I remember sitting next to Kevin in our home league draft and sitting there coming through, and I took Scary Terry in the 9th round or something at that point. And I remember looking at him and go, well, I'm just going to do this because I get a stack because I'd already had McDaniels at that point. But that was the only reason that I think he even got drafted that high. He probably would have slipped another half round to a round at that point. So, but so Scott, those are tough when you look back at that. But yeah, that's one of those that you just gotta take solace in the fact that
you started the right guy. The performance didn't go the way you wanted, but you started the right guy. I mean, we were talking about that with Alex's team in the home league. Like the way the scoring works down, Mason Rudolph scored higher than CJ Stroud.
Yeah.
Not that CJ Stroud's been on fire this year, but no. I would rather go down. I want my ship to go down with my horses on it. And I can live with a bench player having a just monster week and so be it. Whatever, as opposed to really gambling in a neck and neck type matchup on a player that hasn't popped more than 2 times all year. And then your starter, or who's normally your starter, has a week that is accustomed to a starter's week. It's hard. You can second guess all over the place, man. But I'm telling you, I would have had you do that 10 times out of 10 is start McLaurin over ETN.
Yeah. Kevin, I also would have loved to have had my horses, but it appeared that some farmer came by and shot half of them.
Well, at least you knew they were down.
I did.
Like, at least you knew they were down. Like, and it wouldn't have made a difference in our semifinal matchup, Alex. It wouldn't have. But I would have felt a lot better about you beating me had Jalen Hurts played that whole game instead of 2 drives.
Oh, yep.
Absolutely. I would have been more at peace with that because it's painful when a guy goes down in the first or second
quarter
series. It's like
brutal.
Dang, like now I'm toast. Like there's nothing I can do. I don't get a pivot. Like I can't do anything about that. And that's a bummer.
That is a bummer. That's why if you don't like that feeling, play best ball.
Right.
Which I do that a lot just because I like playing in so many leagues and don't like having to manage a roster every week.
Roster for all of them.
Outside of the what is it, the 40 or 50, leagues that anyway. But yes,
I don't see myself doing as many next year, Derek. I'm telling you right now.
I think I'm right there with you. I think I'm going to do a lot more best ball. I see that.
That's kind of what I'm thinking too. Just draft the crap out of it. Call it good.
I see that very much in my future. So,
Mm-hmm.
Jamie's saying that they have a Sunday morning start sit show. For week 18 going. So
say that 5 times fast.
Yeah. I think I kind of messed that up already trying to go through it slow once. So Jamie's got that show, letting everybody know. And again, like I said, if you're looking for the boys' advice, you can find us on all the socials at Good Old Boys FF. Let us know, and we'll get back to those as quickly as we can. Kev over on YouTube saying won both of their leagues, fellas, even with Connor in both, and both the kickers got 0. So that is a way to overcome when you get a goose egg and load to little points out of a guy that you were probably counting on for a good shot. So great job in pulling out the championship there. Michael over on YouTube saying the greatest season ever, championship won 5, highest score 5 weeks, total season points over 1,900. Beat their opponent this week by 55 points. Saying thanks for all your help. Glad we could help you out along the way.
Good for you, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. So one of the questions that was on the Friday show that I kept going back and forth, and we had some discussion on that, was Ladd McConkey, Drake London going into that one. And at this point, with the performance that both had, I don't know that there was a wrong answer to have started in most cases. But that was one of those that we had a whole lot of kind of back and forth between that. And so at that point, I'm just kind of curious what your guys' thoughts were on that one and which way you would have leaned. Kind of setting the what you know aside and looking at that.
I think I don't know, man. Like I probably would have leaned McConkey because Michael Penix wasn't all that impressive, right? In his opener against a bad Giants team. What did he throw for, like 100 and it was less than 200 yards, right? In his first game. So I think I would have leaned McConkey, just because I think Washington was their defense is a touch better, right? The Chargers were playing a down on their luck Patriots team. I was a little nervous. I actually was talking with Keith about the Chargers game. I was a little nervous about the weather. I thought that would play into limiting the amount of touches that Dobbins would get. But it turns out it wasn't that big of a deal. So, I think I would have leaned Ladd McConkey there. I probably wouldn't have been too terribly happy about it. I think that was more of an indictment of Michael Penix than an endorsement of McConkey.
Okay.
I think I'm probably there with you.
Yeah.
I think I would have leaned on McConkey. He has been quickly, even throughout the season, Herbert's kind of go-to guy.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I would have given that up. Juicy matchup against the Patriots, right? Like, with McConkey playing in the slot as well as outside, you don't have Gonzalez following him around all over the field like that. Chargers have been clicking pretty well on offense. Running game's been beat up. They're, between running backs in and out, if you will. So I probably would have leaned McConkey again because of Penix. Like, I don't want to trust a guy coming into a second start. Like, it just this late into the playoffs
game,
yeah, this late into the playoffs, I want to bank on what I know, And
Right.
McConkey and Herbert, at least I've seen 16 weeks of interaction with that. And so I think I would have leaned on that knowledge as opposed to the unknown.
Fair enough. And that's the way that we went there, but it was that was one of the tougher ones from Friday for sure. All right. And then Terry saying that they had Kamara in the league as well. Yeah, that is rough.
Hey, we get to let's talk a little bit. I know we've got some other ones to get here, some other questions to get here, but let's talk about the question I threw in the private chat, because I do think that it's an interesting one. And that's I'll ask you guys, who was your biggest disappointment in the playoffs? Who was your biggest disappointment? And this, I mean, obviously this can go back to week 14 or 15, whatever it was the first week. It can go to this week. You know, who was your biggest disappointment? Maybe not just because of performance, because of injury. Like, what was your, like, damn, I really could have used that guy to do better than he did?
Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
Hands down, Cooper Kupp. Because I kept thinking that Matt Stafford and the Rams would turn it around. And instead, he went 3 straight games with sub 200 yards. And Cooper Kupp was like wide receiver 122 over the course of the last 3 weeks.
Right.
Like, it is mind-boggling how they completely forgot about this guy. And I was really frustrated by that. Really frustrated by that. So it cost me a number of leagues in the playoffs, waiting for Cooper to kind of show up, and then the goose egg on Thursday night, followed up by 50 yards on 4 catches, and then followed up by another craptastic performance this week. Like, it didn't matter what week you started him. It just, he was snake bit. And so he is my biggest disappointment by far, followed closely by Jalen Hurts going down in the semis.
Yeah. You know, to be honest, I don't, because I'm kind of basing this all off of the home league, right? Like, first round exit in the home league. But even at that point, I don't know that I really have a big disappointment in the playoffs for me there, right? Like, it was just one of those that certainly just didn't pan out for me. Second highest score in week 15 and got bounced. Third highest score in week 16, and what would have been the highest score in week 17. Like, ended up besting the or close to the second highest score all time in the league that's on its like 20th season at that point in what would have been championship week. So yeah, I don't know that I really feel that that much disappointment around a lot of the roster. It just Alex had a better week 15.
I actually did some math while we were starting the show, Derek. I averaged 545 points over the 3 weeks of the playoffs.
I know I'm higher than that.
Andy averaged 555 points, so don't feel too bad. No, these are averages. It means nothing, right?
Right.
You averaged 567. You had just monster weeks, and unfortunately, as you said, like you ran into the only person who had a more monster week than you. I'd say my biggest disappointment, and really it's been kind of a disappointment all year. CJ Stroud, like he was not great this season. I have a lot to pick from in the home league of people that disappointed me, and the irony, I guess, of the whole situation was that the position group that I was most nervous about the entire season and was tinkering and trying to improve the entire season ended up being the reason I was in these games to begin with, was my receiving core, and they had monster weeks. My quarterbacks just let me down. Starting with CJ Stroud. So that was a rough. That's a guy that I wish I could have gotten a lot more from, especially in the last 3 weeks. And And you look at the last 3 weeks, and it was just this last week was terrible. 185, 17 completions, 185 yards, and an interception. And he only had 1 carry for 7 yards. He was sacked 5 times. We lose points for those sacks. Week 17 against Kansas City. And yeah, look, I mean, he played Miami, Kansas City, and Baltimore in those weeks, and that's tough. Those are 3 teams that like you're not going to score a ton against. But man, sure would have been nice if he'd have scored a little bit more.
And what gives you the heartburn about Stroud is he only had 2 weeks inside the top 10 in the home league for all the scoring that we get. Only had 2 weeks inside the top 10, and his last week inside the top 10 was week 4.
Yeah.
And yet you still managed to get to the finals in spite of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was. And truth be told, like I have him because I have him at a discount, right? Like I have him on a 6th round draft penalty. And like
that's not a discount when he plays like that now,
exactly.
Right? Now you have to think
now
about
it's not
that
now I have to consider
it.
Yeah, now I have to consider like, oh, am I keeping this dude in a 6th rounder? Like, is that worth it? Like that's the consideration where like I was set. I was like, I've got CJ Stroud at 6th rounder for the rest of time until CJ Stroud decides he's done playing football. And now I don't know that I want that. So that was the dude that like I could have used a little bit more. I'll ask the second part of the question because it's worth, following up some negativity with some positivity, I believe. But who is your best performer? Maybe your surprise or just your guy that you were like, that was a pleasant surprise, or somebody that really helped you.
Joe Burrow, Chase Brown, Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans.
That's mine.
Those are kind of running through some of that list. T. Higgins, honestly, for everybody bagging the hell out of T. Higgins, he showed up for the fantasy playoffs.
Right. Jaden Daniels was another guy.
Yep. Yeah, kind of had his middle of the season swoon, right? We thought he was a little nicked up and he was kind of not quite himself there for 3, maybe even 4 weeks there, kind of in the middle of the season, but playoffs came around and he got healthy again.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that was
Bo Nix is another guy, like quietly.
Bo Nix had
Bo Nix and Cortland Sutton. If you're looking for a supplemental wide receiver, right, a guy that you could stick in as a wide receiver 3 or flex play in some leagues who is getting you consistent points, Cortland Sutton did great in the playoffs for you.
Right.
He was never going to be the top 5 guy, but he outperformed A.J. Brown in at least one of those 3 weeks, outperformed Cooper Kupp in all of those 3 weeks, outperformed Tyreek Hill, outperformed Juwan Jennings, outperformed Deebo Samuel. I mean, you can go through the list of guys that he did do better than. Brian Thomas Jr. is another one who's been outstanding for the playoffs. Outstanding. But
I'll throw 2 other names out as well because I have them both on my roster when it comes to receivers. But Amon-Ra St. Brown, monster week in week 15, right, against the Chiefs, or excuse me, against Buffalo. Monster week there. Followed it up with a serviceable week in week 16 and then another decent week this week. And Malik Neighbors. Somehow, like, despite how bad the Giants have been, like Malik Neighbors put up really good weeks in week 15 against the Ravens, serviceable again, like didn't entirely disappear, right, against Atlanta in week 16, and then another monster week this week in week 17 with a 171 and 2 touchdowns. Like those again, like I said, like those 3, and I include Mike Evans because those were my 3 receivers, carried me to the championship and made it that I didn't get laughed out of the championship game.
Fair enough. Alrighty. Any other thoughts on this one?
No.
Alrighty. Terry, over on YouTube asking, can we fire Nudie already? I'm a Niners fan.
I don't
Scott-
think.
He was great until he got injured.
Yeah,
And
I
as
don't.
soon as he got injured, he was not the same guy coming back.
I don't think he's got a job next week. I think there will be a new kicker, which is like terrible because there's only 1 week left. But like
He missed 3. Is that what he missed?
I saw him miss 2. I don't know if he missed a third.
Right.
But yeah, Kyle Shanahan, I think, is done with that. I don't even know that Moody's card's going to work on Monday when he tries to come to the facility.
Scott asking, Terry, do you mean Moody the kicker? LOL. And Terry responded with, yeah, Nudie equals Moody. So, all righty.
Oh no, he missed. It's an extra point. So he missed an extra point and 2 field goals. That's what it was.
That's rough. Kev over on YouTube saying that Mayfield is their MVP. Drafted Kyler, picked up Baker week 2, and traded Kyler, Monty, and Andrews for Bijan to the Prescott manager when Dak got hurt. Yeah,
That's a good deal.
that is a solid move there.
Yeah, Baker was awesome. Sam Darnold
great.
was another guy who had a really good year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and you didn't expect it, right? I mean, that was
both those guys are value picks.
Yeah,
both those guys values.
Unbelievable.
Right? These are 2 shining examples of why it's okay to wait on quarterback. Like if you're not going to go for the top 4 or 5 guys, and for the most part, they all showed out, right? Mahomes is the exception, but he had so many wide receiver issues. I'm almost willing to say okay and be apologetic for him for this year. But Allen and Hurts and Jackson and Burrow all did really well. You had Mahomes with wide receiver issues. Dak got hurt. They had some offensive health issues. Stroud was kind of the top guy who just didn't really. He had wide receiver health issues, but some of that was just them.
Right.
Texans leaned on Joe Mixon a ton, and I don't think anybody was quite prepared for how much Joe Mixon was going to be involved.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and Joe Mixon was involved because Stephon Diggs wasn't.
Well, but even before then, Mixon had been flirting with a top 8 back all year long. It just how it shook out. But then you have these dark horses, right? Mayfield went super late. Sam Darnold went even later. Being able to ride that. Tua obviously got knocked out, literally. And he wasn't the same guy. Purdy's he's regressed back to a serviceable quarterback, but not quite there. Jordan Love had weeks, but they found a lot of balance this year with Josh Jacobs and running the football. So you haven't had Jordan Love, throw for the 3 touchdown games as often, right? Now he's, 245, 2 touchdowns maybe, and that's kind of where he's been living.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, ton of value quarterback play. Bo Nix, another one, right? We just got done talking about Bo Nix. We were able to get him late. Cousins looked really good until about week 10. And then
the wheels just kind of fell off. Yeah.
But going through week 10, you felt okay. Like you didn't love it, but you felt okay. Matt Stafford, you felt okay until about week 11. And then it started to kind of fall off for Stafford a little bit too. So, I mean, there's risk and reward on both sides of those guys. But the fact that you could do that and get 2 of them because you're drafting them late, so you pick up 2 anyway, knowing that you're going to pivot around. And then, you end up with a Mayfield or a Sam Darnold, plus a guy. And you're able to make trades like this. So it's depth is power. And it is all season long. And the longer you can go with keeping your depth, the more information and accurate, kind of decision you can make on trading for a position of weakness, and you're not scrambling like you could be in week 4, right? And trying to make plays if you didn't have wide receiver depth to overcome some of these guys being out early in the year.
Absolutely. Mr. Magic saying that they're not a happy camper. They were up by 28 and played against Purdy tonight.
Oh no!
That is rough.
That stinks.
Oh no!
You kind of knew that was going to happen though too, because Detroit's defense. I mean, how many dudes do they have out? Like 16.
Yeah, but you don't expect Purdy to put up 32 points,
right? To
like,
have
you
4
don't
total
expect
touchdowns and 377. Yeah, that
like,
is
you're going,
not normal. For
like,
him,
okay,
especially with no
22,
CMC.
exactly, like 22, 25. Okay, Purdy had a good game at 25, but at 28, you feel pretty safe. And yeah, Purdy had 32. Like, what the bleep? Like,
Yeah.
I totally get that, Magic. Like, I totally understand where your frustration comes from.
Yeah. And then they were saying that they played Cup and Keenan over Grendo and Devonta.
That's even worse.
Yeah.
That hurts.
I think I may have played a part in that on Friday, in which case, my apologies. But at that point, right, like,
Yeah, like,
it
playing
does go.
Devonta was tough, man.
Devonta was
Kenny
tough.
Pickett, playing Kenny Pickett and not knowing what to expect there. Like, I would have scratched my eyes and looked at the stat line 5 different times had you given me Devonta Smith's stat line before the game started. I would look at it and go, no bleeping way. Like, there's just, you are out of your freaking mind.
Right.
And sure enough, the Cowboys are terrible, and he did it. Like, it was like, what the hell?
Yeah. So, and then Mario saying that fantasy football is an emotional game, and that is the excitement of it. One can't predict what will happen, and there were some weeks where Koo outscored or scored more points than Mahomes.
Right.
Yeah, that is crazy to think about.
It's a very, very silly thing that we all do.
Yeah, there's another guy who may not have a job come next year.
Young Hoku.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like
I can
Patrick
see
Mahomes.
No, Young
Disappointing,
Hoku.
Kevin, but geez.
He cost the Falcons a couple games, and we blamed a lot of that on Kirk Cousins because he wasn't playing so hot. But they could have won 2 of those games.
Yeah.
Had Young Hoku remembered that his only job is to kick the oblong pigskin through the metal U-shaped pipes.
Should bring in the Canadian. You get the point if it goes out of the back of the end zone situation.
Listen, I think we should do it. I think we should give teams a point if they can have a kickoff go through the uprights.
I agree with that.
Terry saying that their biggest disappointment was QB with Hurts, wide receiver Reed and Cup, running backs of Connor, Achane, tight end Strange and Ferguson, the defensive Colts versus the Giants.
Holy cow, this was your roster this week, Terry. My goodness.
Right?
I don't know that you could pick a bigger disappointment, the biggest disappointment out of all those. I don't know that you could.
Right. Well, and especially the Colts.
Reed's on my do not draft list for next year. Yeah. I'm so frustrated with Jaden Reed. Goodbye.
I'll take him into some best balls depending upon where the ADP is, just because I don't have to deal with that, and he'll have those 3 or 4 blow up weeks. Yeah. But if I can get that at the right discount on the rounds,
Terry, that's brutal. I don't even want to look at that anymore. I'm so sorry, Terry.
Well, the crazy thing is the Colts defense special teams. That was like the most popular streaming defense of the week, and
because it's the Giants,
right? And Drew Lockett had been nothing but sacked and throwing interceptions, and you name it, just bad. And Drew Lock seemingly remembered how to play quarterback, or figured out how to play quarterback for one game, and put up a QB3 overall on the week. So, holy smokes! Terry saying another playoff bust was Joe Mixon. Yeah, that one got a little tough in there, especially if you had you've been riding Mixon kind of all season long, and it certainly did not pan out where he had been playing all year.
Yeah, he was gassed. He was gassed at the end of it.
So
2 years ago, I think he still has the legs for it, right?
Yeah.
I think his legs and just tread on the tires, everything. 2 years ago, I think that 14 bye helps. This year, it was just too late. Like, he needed like a week 11, 12 bye to be able to get himself right. And he was gassed by the week 14 bye. And then the Ravens right after that didn't help.
No, not even a little bit. All righty. And then we asked in the chat there, who's your fantasy football MVP this season? Go ahead and let us know who y'all's MVP was. We also threw out there too, who is your bust candidate for the season as well?
I tell you, if you drafted really close to the start of the season, it's got to be Jamar Chase. Gotta be, because the contract dispute and everything else, he was falling down draft boards like,
Oh yeah,
oh, it's not resolved. Oh, it's this. And I was in that camp that was Jamar Chase. And I'm looking back on so many leagues, like especially in leagues I was like, oh, yeah, I'll take the second wide receiver off the board and have it be CeeDee Lamb or Tyreek Hill, like feeling good, and Jamar Chase, kind of going, 3-4 picks after that, mid late first round picks. I'm like, son of a gun, like that would have been nice to have. Like,
right.
it was totally from a skill position aspect. It's got to be Jamar. Just he played so damn well this year.
Right. Alex, any additions there?
For MVP,
C.
I mean, I had a soft spot for. I mean, he wasn't like gonna win you weeks, but man, was he effective when he was in your lineup? Was Chuba Hubbard, like, and you got him for peanuts, right? Like,
And there's some big time values that you got, right? Bucky,
yeah,
Chuba,
Bucky Irving, that's another really good one.
Chase Brown.
Right.
I mean, not like non-quarterback, right? Because we already kind of touched on quarterbacks, but yeah, I think another one. And while he was disappointing,
Mooney, Terry McLaurin,
Darnell Mooney was a great late round value for most of the season.
Yeah. Lad McConkey towards the end started turning it on there.
I'll tell you the other one who it's not because he was great value, but because he actually kind of lived up to where you were taking him, was Kyron Williams. That was return on investment, right?
It was a big topic. It was a big topic, right? With Kyron. Yeah. Oh, he's not going to be healthy. Oh, he doesn't have the legs for it. Oh, he's going to get gassed. And Kyron held up his end of the deal.
Yeah. Derek, I heard you say
Saquon, Derrick Henry, right? Like, Derrick
guys
Henry, another guy who kind of got almost gassed a little bit. Like, he just wasn't quite used as much until this week. They used him quite a bit against the Texans, but weeks 14, 13, did they have the late bye? Whatever it was, like he was kind of not getting used as much. Like, damn, what's going on? And then showed up big in week 15.
Yeah, he did.
And this week, he had a good week this week too. 30 points against the Texans. Like, he had a good week.
I'm just trying to go through and look at guys who held up. Like, they held up their part of the deal.
Mike Evans.
For more weeks than not, yes. We finally had a Mike Evans injury. Like, that stunk. There were a few weeks in there where he was not as
He's
great,
had some of those to his career, though, those damn animals. But when he was in...
effective, yeah.
It was super effective. Like, you wonder what that season could have been on both sides had Chris Godwin not gotten hurt. Because I think Baker could have had two... those guys don't get hurt. Baker probably has another 8 touchdown passes between the two of them. And both those receivers are probably over 1,200 yards. Like, we are talking about an amazing year from Baker Mayfield.
Right, you're putting him in an MVP conversation at that point.
Hell yes, you are.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And
go ahead.
Real quick to kind of just add on to that thought, right? Like, that 2018 draft class all of a sudden is looking like one of the better draft classes that, in a lot of years coming out there, right? Like Baker, Darnold, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. I know those first round quarterbacks. We'll forget Josh Rosen at that point because, anyway. But I mean, 5 quarterbacks taken the first round. Right? Yeah. And at this
It's a
point,
good hit rate.
Yeah.
certainly took Darnold and Baker some time to kind of find their spots, but man, they seem to have found them.
I'll throw two other names out there that I think they weren't MVPs for me because I didn't have them on any of my rosters, and I wish I would have. James Cook felt like he had a really, really
he surpassed all my expectations this year.
Delivered.
He really
and then I think another really decent one is Aaron Jones, who I don't think we were all super high on coming over from Green Bay to that Minnesota team. That Minnesota team we thought was going to be tough with a rookie quarterback going into it, right? And then, oh crap, it's Sam Darnold. And Aaron Jones put up decent numbers this year. I don't have it in front of me, Derek. Maybe you could. Did he finish in RB1 territory?
No,
where's he at?
15.
Running back 15.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, not bad for a dude that was going. He went in the 4th round in ours, in our draft.
Right.
He was drafted at about that spot, running back number 14, number 43 overall.
Right. Yeah, Rico Dwaddle's a guy that you could add in for the late value, right? Not put him in the fantasy MVP conversation, but late round value. That's a guy that you oftentimes were taking with the last pick of a draft and finishing it as an RB24.
I'm just trying to look through our draft here as guys that were good. And Keith has Jamar Chase on a 6th round penalty. That's insane.
Oh, he's been keeping him since his rookie year. And right, similar things with his rookie year, right? Like the reports weren't great, all of that coming into that draft. And so, certainly kind of worked out well for him there. So, all righty. Let's go ahead and hit up some other comments and chats here. Kev over on YouTube saying Kelsey for bust and Kenneth Walker another. Yeah.
Was Kelsey? Kelsey did not live up to what he should. He didn't live up to where you were taking him, right? Because you were taking him
second round in most cases.
Yeah, multiple rounds before any other tight ends are going off the board.
Laporta 1, Kelsey 2, and they were both in that second, third round. And then the next guys, you started looking at Trey McBride, Kittle, Andrews, kind of in that 4th, 5th round in a lot of cases.
There's a guy that was super disappointing. Was Mark Andrews?
Yeah, I mean, he still finished tight end 5 on the season.
Yeah, to start though,
he
it was
kind of worked his way up and slowly got there. It was just it was a really tough first few weeks.
Right. So
absolutely. Brock Bowers was kind of a nice little surprise, right?
Yeah.
Right.
He waited on tight end a little bit and grabbing Bowers. He did a good job helping carry your roster.
Especially given how many people I'm sure were gun shy taking the rookie tight end, having gone for what's his name down there in Atlanta?
Pitts.
When are we going to learn to stop taking overhyped dudes coming out of Florida? When are we going to learn? Anthony Richardson, Kyle Pitts. When are we going to learn? Tim Tebow. When are we going to learn?
Yep. Another guy on my do not draft ever list.
Alrighty.
He could put up 3,000 yards and 35 touchdowns next year, and I still wouldn't feel bad about not drafting Kyle Pitts. Seriously, let's think about that.
I thought you were talking to Anthony Richardson on your do not draft list.
No. Richardson has some intrigue. For
the right ADP, that could happen.
And that's kind of what I'm thinking on. I have Richardson and Ladd McConkey as last round picks. I'm trying to convince myself that all I need is, that if I started with 1 star and then took my other 2 keepers as the last 2 rounds, kind of approach Derek talk, right? What am I able to do? What am I really able to do? I've been burned by stars the last 2 years in the playoffs. This year, Jalen got hurt. Last year, Jefferson got shut down against Green Bay in the finals and totally cost me. The stars get me so far, but I'm Struggling, starting to feel the home league drought here after a couple of years. I'm getting a twitch.
Yeah, I feel that. But yeah, that is an interesting roadmap that I've taken in that where, luckily I have Puka who's star, but I can get it with the last round keeper, and Kyler, who, right, if nothing else in a super flex, like that's a solid QB2 that I can keep with a 17th round keeper.
17th round penalty. Yeah.
Yeah. So there'll be a lot of things that I'm going to have to revisit and review here in this next this offseason as far as what my plans are. So we'll get into that too, I'm sure, as we get closer to draft season. But
I lied. I have Stroud on a 9th round penalty. It
Yeah.
might be worth hanging on to for a 9th round penalty.
Yeah. Like Olave was a keeper for me too, right? 10th round penalty. Guy that typically goes 2nd, 3rd round in a lot of cases. Like, well,
I don't see you keeping him.
No, especially when I can get McLaurin, who's paired up with Daniels for 9th round. Like that one. Anyway, there's going to be some hard decisions made in this one. So
I had a brutal quarterback draft. Tua in the 5th. Stroud was my keeper in the 9th. Daniel Jones in the 12th, who I took. Well, I guess I didn't take right before Baker Mayfield because Baker was a 12th round keeper. But I took Daniel Jones in the 12th. There's another guy that was super disappointing this year, right? Like, terrible. Didn't even make it the whole way. And everybody was like, oh, but he can run. He'll run. He's got rushing upside. He ran right out of New York.
Right.
And then as insurance, I took Gardner Minshew, who was the starter at that point, right? Like he was the starter in Las Vegas.
Till he wasn't, and then he was, and then he wasn't again.
Right. So I know some guys that you can ask QB questions of, and yeah, hit rate's not bad for sure. So, alrighty. Scott over on YouTube was saying Jaden Daniels is an MVP in one of my leagues. Never expected that kind of year.
Nah.
Yeah,
an MVP and probably won you a championship if you started him this week.
Yeah, like solid. Like he was QB1 over the last 3 weeks of the playoffs.
Yeah, like great.
Yep. Scott saying, he missed some 50 yards and PAT, and Terry saying he missed 2 field goals and extra point. Going back to the Moody. Scott saying, can CMC be considered a bust due to injury plague season? Yes.
Yeah, because he was healthy when you drafted him.
Or at least the reports coming out were like the reports certainly didn't lead on to like, hey, there's a good chance that he really misses some time here. It was one of those like, oh, he's got a little bit of a calf thing going on.
There were a couple guys on this show, and I am going to take a victory lap on this. There were a couple guys on this show who maybe not to this extent saw it coming, but did call for big time regression from CMC.
Yeah.
So we got our fair share of stuff wrong, but on the biggest name in fantasy football, we got it right.
So, absolutely.
Still didn't stop me from taking him 101 in my work league.
Well, maybe
I finished third. I finished third in that league, despite that. In spite of that, I finished third in that league.
To be honest, the top 3 picks all kind of meh.
Yeah,
because the top 3 picks were CMC. No, it wasn't. Well, in most leagues, it wasn't Brees. It was CMC, CeeDee Lamb, and Tyreek. Were your top 3 going into the draft. Tyreek was terrible. I thought he was going to have a bonkers year.
Yeah.
Nope, that didn't happen. So I missed there, right? I got the CMC thing, right? Like, no, I'm not messing with that. But I took Tyreek. I was like, heck yes. Nope. Yeah. Should have been going Jamar Chase the whole stinking time. So guess who wide receiver 1 next year is? Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
Right. Also, by the way, big regression coming on that one. I'll just call that shot now. But same thing too, right? With CeeDee Lamb, right? Like we called that shot saying that there was regression coming in that one as well. And that
what was he before they put him on IRD? Wide receiver 5? At least he was close. It was not the wide receiver 1 by the landslide that he was last year.
Correct.
But at least he got you top 5.
I don't know that he was all the way up there. When did he go? He was through week.
Maybe I was looking at the home league, which is that's perverts my
right. It does a little bit. So he was he went on IR? Was it week 16 or this last week?
It was the previous week.
So he
week
played.
16.
So he played in 15 weeks.
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay. Oh, and Kevin, you were right. So a top 4 performance in the weeks 1 through 15. So
at least it was close.
it was close. There Alex, he did play in week 16.
Oh, he did?
And in week 16 he was wide receiver 4. So
Okay. So it's not as terrible. You survived. It's way better than CMC or Tyreek.
right.
Yeah.
Right. And he certainly picked some of that up over the last little bit because there was some droughts there in the middle of the season that he certainly kind of picked it up the last 3 weeks. But from weeks 9 through 13, you were really scratching your head, wondering what this was going to look like. So,
but Brees was like RB2, right? Like it was
correct.
CMC
It was either him or
RB1.
It's him or Bijan.
correct.
Yeah, or Bijan.
Yep.
Who
So that one
Bijan delivered. Brees didn't.
Right. Well, the Jets.
They did.
Yep.
Saw a fantastic Onion headline. That was many parents not starting their kids in football for fear that they may get drafted by the Jets. And that's
hysterical.
It's
It's hysterical. All righty. And then Jordan over on YouTube saying, "Sup, good old boys. Not much. We're doing that show thing. Appreciate you tuning in." Richard saying, "Thought I was done, but that last Gibbs TD gave them the championship. Appreciate the info all year, guys.
Well
that is
done,
awesome.
Congratulations, man. That's awesome. That's awesome. Down to the wire. What a sweat.
Absolutely. Appreciate you tuning in as well. Shameless plug here. We do keep the show going year round. We'll be back to Tuesday next week, and it's Tuesday throughout the off season and through the playoffs and all of that here. But Tuesdays going forward, and we got some fun shows lined up. Start getting into some draft prospects there leading up to the draft. We do our big draft day special, and then a lot of content starting to get ready and getting folks prepped and geared up for next season in 2025. So be sure to hit that like, subscribe, those notification buttons so you can get those notifications when we go live. All right. Any other thoughts on that one after I get done with my shameless plug?
No. We like ships, so congrats.
Absolutely. Rome saying that they won their championship easily, 2-12, best record in the league. 12-2. 12-2. The dyslexia caught up to me. My apologies.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Yeah, Rome.
Absolutely. Great job. Forever Eagles saying they lost because they started Connor over Jameson. That is on the rougher side there. They also said that
50-50 going into it, right? Like, did we think that the Niners were they're not the same Niners that we've all kind of seen the last 5 years, but did we really think that they were going to be giving up 38 points or 34 points tonight? And
it was more than that even. I know the Lions got to at least 40. It was rough.
Yeah.
And at that point, would you have really thought that Connor or Jameson would have outscored Connor? Like if Connor's suiting up and active for the game, like I don't know that I'm putting my
I had the under on the game tonight, so that tells you where my thoughts were.
Right.
JMO really benefited from the hook and ladder, right? That was a big play there. 41 yards, and that was the touchdown.
And he also had a rushing touchdown too.
Yeah, on his 2 carries for -2 yards and his rushing touchdown. So yeah, it helped. That helped.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know that you like Connor. You had to think that a healthy Connor was going to have a better game than JMO. So
right, like the RB10 entering into the week versus a fringe wide receiver 2 kind of guy. Like Kevin made the point earlier. I'm putting my big dogs in the fight. Like that's where that kind of comes into play. Also saying that they started him over McMillan. I still would have been starting Connor over McMillan. But
heck yes.
Yeah. Scott over on YouTube. Sounds funny to say now, but Alan Lazard got me a couple of early wins as a waiver wire fill-in. Haha. Yeah,
He did.
I mean that was a
He
heck
did.
of
That was a little 3-week stretch there, and it was absolutely worth it.
right, especially if you then moved him to get another piece, or even better. So. For Eagles saying that they made it to the chips but lost Hurts, Njoku, and CD. Yeah, that makes it a rough week for sure. I know that I was dealt with a couple of those in a couple of leagues where just the injuries were too much to overcome.
Yes, sir.
For Eagles asking, who is your 101 next year?
You're way too early rankings for next year. It probably is Jamar Chase for me.
Yeah.
No matter what happens with T. Higgins, I don't think it matters. The Cowboys need to show me that they can build an offensive line and keep Dak healthy. They need some support in the running game. They need another receiver to, take some pressure off of CD. Tyreek feels like he's lost a bit of a step because even when Tua was healthy when he came back, teams seem to have a pretty good game plan against Tyreek. So I think that kind of falls down. Jefferson, I think they're going to maybe they bring Darnold back. They should. If they don't bring Sam Darnold back, it is a crime. It is a crime. Now, who knows what they're going to do? Obviously, they have the rookie that they drafted this year. So that scares me about Jefferson. The Lions love to spread the ball out now, especially that J-Mo's become a better route runner. So Amon-Ra is great, but he's not the only show in town anymore. Like he just gets it spread around on him a little bit. The Jets are going to jet, as Derek mentioned earlier. So, I mean, there's just so many. I can come up with so many reasons why the guys behind Jamar Chase aren't going to be able to keep up with him. But I don't know that I have a reason why Jamar Chase can't be the top fantasy performer again next year with all health considered, right? Everybody's healthy.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't see how Jamar Chase isn't the 101.
Right. I mean, you could probably see some old namestays kind of bring themselves back to relevance there, right? Like CMC will be in that discussion. He just kind of always is. Saquon Barkley probably after this year probably put himself in that because so many folks, when they get into that and they start doing the drafting, they're looking at just the past season's, performance there. And Saquon Barkley in Philadelphia has a very good offensive line that he's still in, same thing with Derrick Henry. Like you're going to see some of these guys get a little bit of a revival late stage next year. So,
and I'd buy Saquon being the first running back off the board.
Right. Yeah.
Good offensive line, established culture there in Philly. They find ways to win. Clearly Saquon's enjoying playing with them a ton. Right? He looks 3 years younger playing with the Eagles than what he did sucking on his mouthpiece over on the sideline there in New York. Like he just looks like a whole new man. So I could I keep seeing CMC. I could buy Saquon being the top running back off the board.
Right.
I don't know if you're always replicating 80-yard runs or 70-yard runs, and that is way harder as for a running back than it is to scheme a wide receiver open. He makes one guy miss because the safety slipped and he's gone, right? Like the quarterback does so much of that with air yards. It's easier to have that big play as a wide receiver. The running back earns damn near all of it.
Yeah. I think my 101 next year is based on two previous and what I anticipate will be improvements in the offseason to the offensive line. So I'm gonna go Bijan Robinson.
Yeah, maybe.
I think that's the safest option at 101. All health considered, I think Bijan Robinson's safest option.
I don't know that I'd jump on that one, but I can see where you're going. Alrighty. Any other thoughts on this one?
Short list.
Yeah.
It's a really short list.
Yeah.
This is hilarious. I'm looking at
You're looking at this one?
the NFL stats. No, I'm looking at NFL stats. And to hear what Kevin was saying about, it's going to be hard to replicate 80-yard runs and 70-yard runs for Saquon. He leads the league in what they call big rushing plays, which is 20,
explosive plays, 20
plus
or more.
Yeah, he leads the league. He's got 72. That's his long for the season. He's got 17 of those. Derrick Henry also up there. He's got 16 rushing plays of 20 yards or more. And his long, he got that 87-yarder. That's insane. It's insane that a man that big can't get caught over 87 yards.
Well, his top speed's still impressive, right? Like Derrick Henry's top speed is still over like 21 miles per hour.
Right.
It's insane. And the way defenses are set up in general, if you can keep a star back healthy, and Bijan should be able to become this guy, he has all the skills able to do it. Your Derrick Henrys and your Saquons and your Bijans, those three specifically, just because they're build and overall skill set. Those guys should be able to do this time and time again because these linebackers aren't nearly as big as they used to be.
Yeah, they're much smaller.
Right? You have so many pass rush specialists. You have linebackers who have more lateral quickness, because they're trying to keep up with some of these tight ends.
Yep.
But they don't have.
There's no Alfred Williams anymore.
Right. Well, they don't have the dump in their truck, right? To be able to just stop a running back there in the hole.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Because they do have to be in pass coverage the whole time, right? Like that's just what it is. Like they have to be in pass coverage 70% of the time.
You're right. There's not many times that you see that linebacker meet a running back coming through the A gap, and all of a sudden the running back gets blown up and then lands on their butt a yard behind the line of scrimmage. Like it's anymore, they hit and they fall forward.
Yeah, there's only a couple who can do that.
Right.
Right. Franklin in Indianapolis. I'd tell you Roquan can in Baltimore.
Fred there in San Francisco. Fred Warner,
he has bad intentions, man. That dude's a hell of a linebacker. Like he's not the biggest linebacker. He just has bad intentions. And then the cat out of Jacksonville.
Alukwe.
Yeah. But he's not meeting too many guys in the hole. Like they funnel things into him. So it's he gets the guy after a slowed down missed arm tackle. Like he's not meeting a whole lot of guys in the hole. But outside of that, I can't really think of any who are that type of backer.
Right.
Bobby Wagner too.
Not anymore.
You're right.
2 years ago, last year, I could see where you'd want to argue it. Watching him with Washington this year, he ain't that guy anymore.
No.
He's the wily veteran. He puts himself in the right position, and he's a sound tackler.
Yeah.
But running backs are falling forward on him now. Like he is not stopping guys and making them fall back.
Right. Alrighty. Terry saying that everyone passed on Kyron after the kick returner speech in the preseason. Absolutely. Like it's not often you see a head coach come out and say, he's going to be our special teams guy. Like,
heck yeah. We were worried about that. Blake Corum, we were worried about his health, right? Because he couldn't stay healthy. We were worried that he couldn't stay healthy because he's a little bit smaller framed. Heck yeah. There's a lot of red flags saying he's not going to be the guy. And
he got used a ton last year, right? Like,
that's how McVay does.
Yeah.
I mean, his snap share is off the charts.
Right.
So there was a lot of things going against Kyron. So for him to have the season that he did, he's third in the league in yards. Has 12 touchdowns? 14 touchdowns. Yeah.
Very good year, right? Very good year from Kyron.
Yeah. Jordan saying that their fantasy MVP was Gibbs, got him in 7th overall. Biggest bust was probably Kelsey or Amari Cooper. Okay. I can see that. Terry saying that JSN and Godwin were very nice values there.
I loved my Chris Godwin. I loved my Chris
right
Godwin pick in the home league.
Yeah.
And that just, not that it doomed me, but it hurt. Like I started scrambling big time to try and fill that gap, and I never quite got there.
Right.
And I made 2 or 3 trades after that, trying to find the right piece to plug in there, and I never got it done.
Yeah.
I tell you what, going back to thinking back and looking back in this, but there were plenty of times because I had a ton of weapons, right? I had sold the farm the year previous, and I reaped the benefits the next year because of that. And the amount of trades that I made and the amount of trades that I didn't make, I think that's what put me in the spot to win a championship. Didn't win, but there was a lot of people who were kicking the tires on Kenneth Walker, and yeah, sure, probably would have helped, but like he got me through week, what was that, 16, Derek? Week 15. He helped. He didn't help after that, but he helped when he needed to.
Right. Yeah.
Well, there's Andy, every right? Bit of it. Andy drastically overpaying for Jared Goff.
Yeah, drastically overpaid for Jared Goff, and Jared Goff
won him a championship, right? Won him the game.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
2 weeks ago. And our buddy Keith, who is in the league, was probably one of the loudest guys of chastising Andy for that trade. Stepped up, man. He ate that crow. Like, he did. There's nothing but respect there. He stepped up and owned that one, man. And he was right though. Like, that's a big overpay. And Andy called it out. He said, "It's been a long time, and I'm shooting my shot. This is where it's at," and it paid off for him. So, congratulations to Andy, and it paid off. I'm glad it paid off.
Right. Forever Eagles says saying the biggest waiver wire pickup was McConkey. Yep, that was a really good one.
Yep, I got that late in the season because one of our league mates got pinched with injuries and
I should have bid more.
Everything else.
Should have bid more.
You wouldn't have kept him.
I don't know, with the last round keeper, being able to start with McConkey, Puka, and Kyler with the 17th. Like I got wide receiver 1 and 2 figured out, and QB 2 figured out in the super flex with 3 of my last 4 draft picks.
That's true.
So,
that's true.
Terry saying Joe Burrow was a steal. Yep. Absolutely was.
Yeah, there's a lot of unknowns there. The T. Higgins situation, the Jamar Chase situation.
His wrist?
Situation.
Yeah, his right hand, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Right.
Injury that he was dealing with.
Oh, yeah, Burrow's a steal.
Yeah, Burrow.
If they make the playoffs, he should be the MVP.
He should be the
MVP. It is no longer Josh Allen's.
Yeah.
If the Bengals make the playoffs and Joe Burrow goes out and throws for, another respectable to great game. So as long as he doesn't lay an egg against the Steelers,
it's a very real shot
next
getting
weekend,
5,000 yards. Like it would take a big game, but he's at 4,600 yards right now. He has a realistic shot. He needs 360 to get to 5,000.
They can just do it. He just put up over 400 against the Broncos, and their secondary's been pretty good.
Right.
Yes.
And he just would not go down. Now, divisional, maybe it's a little different, right? That is what it is. I'm sure the Steelers have some special things in mind for him, but he could do it. But Joe's been awesome.
Absolutely. Jordan said that they got Ladd in the 10th and have keeper rights on him. Absolutely.
Yes,
great
sir.
job there.
Gotta love that.
Scott saying Saquon, awesome year overall. Absolutely.
Yes.
Terry saying that MVP of Brock Bowers. Yeah, like that one, the rookie tight end.
Was a revelation. And did it with who at quarterback, right?
Yes, rotating.
That didn't matter. Did not matter.
And I've asked you guys right now, who's playing quarterback this week for Vegas? I could not tell you.
Yeah.
I could not tell you. Is it?
I believe it'll be Aiden O'Connell again. So, yeah, we've seen Aiden O'Connell start, the last 2.
And Brock Bowers has been able to do it despite the fact that he does not have a great quarter. And maybe that's why he's been able to do it, is because I've said it once and I've said it 1,000 times. A great pass catching tight end is a young quarterback's best friend. So, or a bad quarterback's best friend.
Well, I mean, there's a lot to it when they can't establish a run game. They're constantly playing from behind, and your two options are Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers.
Yeah.
So certainly helps there. Jordan saying that Saquon and Gibbs definitely rewarded the managers drafting them in the back of the first. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yes, they did.
Jordan also saying Bowers will have a huge year next year if the Raiders can figure it out. True. We'll see what they do.
There's nothing else there at the moment, so there's definitely a clear path to targets and opportunity. So that's big thing with tight ends. So yeah, I don't disagree with that.
Absolutely. Jordan saying that Andrews turned it around. They did get him off of waivers early, and it got them through the Kelsey slump.
Oh, there you go. So you're in one of those leagues, huh? Where the Andrews manager was pissed off and dropped him. Good for you, man.
Yeah, I like it. I like this comment. Kev over on YouTube. Note to self: don't take Alex's QB advice.
In the home league draft did not go the way that I wanted it to.
You had 8 picks in the first 4 rounds.
Yeah.
What about this draft did not go the way you wanted it to?
I should have. Well, that first quarterback that I took, aside from my keeper of CJ Stroud, was Tua. That was what I thought was going to be a build upon from last year with his awesome year with Tyreek, and that did not come to fruition. Tua doomed me. Otherwise, my quarterback's usually okay. But yeah, this was a pretty rough year quarterback drafting wise.
Just toss them all back in and see where it shakes out.
I might have to. I don't know. A 9th penalty on CJ Stroud might keep him around another year.
Go back and look at his weekly rankings and tell me if you still feel that way.
Not great.
Alex, let's talk. I've got Gino at a later keeper that may interest you. Forever Eagles saying draft players on a contract year because they produce. Absolutely.
That's right. We love players on a contract. Yep. We'd love them.
Yeah. When we get to some of those tips and tricks, that is usually one of the first ones that comes out. There's drafted players on the contract year. Terry saying top 5 pick of 2025, throwing it out with Jamar Chase, Saquon Barkley, Bijan, Lamb, and Jefferson. I don't mind it.
I don't hate that.
I don't hate it either. Lamb is my biggest question mark, but I totally respect that, Terry.
Yeah. Kev over on YouTube saying number 1, Genty.
Hey, we get to see them play again tomorrow night, finally.
Right. I would argue that if Hunter's going to go both ways in the NFL, at least in our home league, Travis Hunter's going to score a shit ton of points.
Yes. He's going to score you a lot of points.
He's going to score a lot of points with all the IDP scoring that we have set up in the home league. So,
and I wonder if we'd have to do it where you have to pay him. You can pick him up as the defender and pick him up as the offensive player, or you have to play him in both.
Probably like a Taysom Hill situation.
Yeah, Taysom Hill. That was one of my favorite moments from, what was it? Was that the pandemic year where I was playing Taysom Hill as a tight end and he was starting at quarterback, and that was awesome.
I know I did that a couple of times, and it drove a few of our league mates crazy.
That was great. That was good stuff. I did that. I think I did that in the high school leagues. I think we had already transitioned to, because ESPN couldn't figure out. They were like, we can't decide what we want to put him as.
Right. And Sleeper was the same way. He didn't get,
He finally would get a QB designation or a tight end designation. It was funny. That was great.
Terry was also saying Zamir White was a huge bust. Yeah, that one did not pan out at all.
Oh.
So, this question here, Forever Eagles, what are your thoughts about Saquon breaking the rushing record? Does it matter how many games? Dickerson broke it in 379 carries, and Saquon has 349 carries, likely breaking it with less carries. Thoughts on this one?
I think it absolutely matters.
I don't think he breaks it.
I'm sorry. Did you say it does matter or it doesn't matter?
Absolutely, Matt. Like, I think it's a big deal. Like,
Okay.
I think it's an absolute big deal. Saquon breaks it. I think the fact that he's done it in less carries is great. In today's NFL, where teams are 60% pass or more, to be able to do this is, in my mind, phenomenal, right? Because when Dickerson did this, it was completely flipped. Teams were 60 to 65% run. They were all about the 3 yards in the cloud of dust.
Right.
And yes, even through that, he did it, which is impressive in its own right. But to me, it's not about the number of games, right? I think the carries is the way to look at it, right? Your average yard per carry, how it's built within the offense, and everything else. But yeah, if Saquon breaks it, it is a big deal. It's history. Like it's why I kind of want to see the Chiefs win a third one, because we've never seen it. To say that I watched history, like, I get it. We get kind of tired of the dynasty and the teams, right? We got tired of the Patriots if you weren't a Pats fan and everything else. And I'm not saying that the Chiefs won't get there over some time, but I want to see a three-peat. Like, I want to see the rushing record broken. I want to see someone go over 2,000 yards as a receiver. Like,
Right.
I want to see these things in a sport that I love and follow as closely as I do. Show me history. That's awesome. So yes, I hope he does it. Yes, to me, it's a big freaking deal. And even more so, less carries, his yards, and so you can go back to his yards per carry. His receiving usage has been way more than Dickerson. So, they're using him in multiple facets. Most teams don't have a true bell cow anymore, right? Everything's RBBC. Like, yes, I could go on about why this is so stinking cool. I hope Saquon does it. I really.
I don't think he does break it, but I will say, and I agree with everything that Kevin has to say, and I'll add to that. While Dickerson's record is incredible, defenses back in 1983 or whenever he set this, back in the 1980s, are not the same as
1984.
what they are in 2024, right? Like that they're not the same. You tell me you can find it. I know we were kind of talking about like the big bruising linebackers and whatnot, but the amount of film study, the amount of, what you have to do
Nutritional
to get past,
discipline.
Yes.
Right? Weight room.
Instead of just like, I'm bigger than you, so I'm going to win this matchup. Like that doesn't exist anymore in the NFL, right? Because everybody's huge. Like,
Right.
So
and they're faster and
they're faster and they're stronger, they're bigger. Like it is a different game, on top of the fact that the game itself, the evolution of the game has changed. The players playing the game have changed dramatically in those 40 years. So I do think it would be impressive if he does it. I don't think he does, because I think the Eagles think bigger picture. And I don't think that they're going to chase. I think if he was a little closer to it, they probably would chase it. But
how many does he need? That's what
like
I don't.
100 yards. 100 yards to tie.
It's just 100.
It's 100 to tie.
Yeah,
smash it. He's gonna smash it by the third.
Yeah, I mean, shoot, he had how many in the first quarter this last week? Like, it was. He just went
playing a
bonkers.
really bad Dallas team.
I hear you.
This Giants team ain't even better, dude. They just gave up 122 to JT, who hadn't done squat all year long.
And it's a revenge game.
And it's a revenge game. What better get? The Eagles are going to get him this. You need to retract that statement. What better way
he's going to do it?
Stick that to the Eagles front office?
And then they're going to play that clip on the Jumbotron of we're not going to pay the dude $12 million a year anymore.
Right. So, I mean, there is a whole lot of
smashes this record.
Right. I mean, that's one of those.
He'll do it.
The offensive line wants that. The front, all of those things, right? Like, so, and I did see, Dickerson coming out and, having like a social media posts talking about 16 games and some of this and some of that, and the thing that I noticed that he neglected to mention was that when he broke O.J. Simpson's record for
Which he
it,
did is 14.
right,
Yeah.
and so I mean, and he beat it by 102 yards, right, and so took him an extra 2 games to get an extra 102 yards.
How
So
fast these old timers forget.
right, like so there is some of that, right, and when you look at it, right, the yards per carry. Yeah, I was kind of looking through some of that yards per carry on that. Dickerson did it with 5.6 yards per carry. Saquon is averaging 5.8. All of those things you kind of just factor into it, just kind of add a little bit of additional stuff onto the great points that you guys already made on that one. So, any other thoughts on this one?
Nah, go Saquon. We've spent a number of episodes not believing in Saquon and his aversion to health, right? With the Giants and everything else.
Right.
I am telling you right now, go Saquon. I
Right.
hope he crushes the record because I
Absolutely.
want to see history.
Right. And you sat there. One other point to just kind of add on to that, right? You were talking earlier about the way the game has changed and all of this and all of that, right? Like it was not that long ago that wide receivers were a late first. Maybe you started looking wide receiver in the second round type of thing when the actual NFL draft. Whereas most teams, when you were sitting there with a second, third, fourth, fifth pick on the board, you were looking to draft running backs. And
Offensive line.
yeah, and you were actively looking to go out there and really draft those guys. And so, those were the mainstay of your offense. So it's nice to see that he's been able to have this season, even with that drastic change. All righty, we've got 3 questions here. We're gonna hit these up, and I think we're gonna call it a night. Shadow, we'll just leave that as Shadow over on YouTube. Keeper league question: keep Kyron Williams for an 8th rounder or Bowers for a 10th rounder. The league that they're in, the tight end spot is a flex with a wide receiver. So it's a wide receiver flex. Know that it's way too early. Thanks in advance.
Kyron.
Yeah, I agree.
Cosign.
And Kev over on YouTube, pick 4 keepers. Round doesn't matter. JD5. So Jaden Daniels, Brees Hall, James Conner, Monty, CMC, Higgins, Wilson, Tyreek, Rashee Rice, Godwin, Bowers.
Like this.
So it's,
At
that point, I want to see what happens with Higgins in the landing spot, right? I want to see what happens with Garrett Wilson and who in the world's going to be quarterback and offensive coordinator and head coach. And I want to see what in the world the Jets are going to actually do there before I'm going to sign off on those.
Okay, so I have 3.
Is it a super flex PPR league? But is it a single quarterback or is it a super flex?
Right. So Kev, let us know if it's single QB or super flex. Like that drastically changes where Jaden Daniels plays.
And I guess I'll just tell you, if it's a single quarterback, I'm not keeping Daniels.
No.
Correct.
If it's a super flex, I'm absolutely going to keep him.
Uh-huh.
So single QB.
He says it is single.
Okay, so it's not going to be Jaden Daniels. It's not going to be James Conner.
No.
If the round doesn't matter, then you just want to stack talent. So then it's not Monty.
Yeah.
Nope.
And it's probably not Godwin as much as I would argue for him because of how he started out.
You'll still be able to get Godwin.
I know.
Still, like Godwin's there.
So if that's the case, right, you're going CMC and Brees.
Yep.
And then it's a matter of it's a mix of Higgins, Tyreek, and Wilson.
Huh. No Bowers.
I would argue no Bowers. No Bowers. I would argue that Rashee Rice should be one of your keepers.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
Don't forget he was wide receiver 1 when he went down.
Yeah.
And Mahomes looked to him for everything. Everything. Rashee Rice was on a freaking tear until that injury, and it happened early enough. He should be back fully healthy by the time you're drafting again. So I would argue that that the top three are Brees, CMC, and Rashee Rice. And then you guys, I mean, it's kind of a coin flip. Higgins, Wilson, Bowers.
Right. All three of those guys have
Tyreek,
situations where it's going to really depend on who the quarterback is, I think.
Right. So does that help? Like, we can get you, like, when do you have to have these set by? Like, we can get you 3 out of the 4 today.
Right.
And then the fourth, if we're pontificating on what is going to happen, I'd probably tell you Bowers, honestly. Maybe Higgins.
Yeah.
I don't trust the Jets. Tyreek sounds like he's lost a step.
Right.
Godwin, you can draft again. Like, you're just going to spend, like, he'll just be, if everybody's keeping 4, you're probably going to draft him in the first or second round.
Mm-hmm.
If everybody's keeping 4. But, yeah. Brees, CMC, Rice, then Higgins or Bowers.
Right.
Probably Bowers.
And he says it's all good, fellas, not until next year.
I know, but this is the fun stuff. Like,
yeah, it is. And he's saying that JD5 scored 49 points with how this week with how the scoring went. Like, I get it. I get it, but there is a whole lot of that.
How many? Yeah, and how many people in your league are going to keep quarterback?
Right.
So, if it's a 10 or 12 person league, are you going to be the only one not keeping quarterback? I doubt it.
Right. And even if you are they going to go out and then draft a quarterback with their first round when they just kept one? Chances are probably not. So you're probably going to see him fall to you that you could take him then again.
I think you could take the first round.
Yeah. 12 team, 6-point passing touchdown.
If you really wanted to and you didn't want to chase QB, then you take Jaden Daniels over Bowers or Higgins and call it good. But you're still going with both running backs. Brees, CMC, Rashee Rice, and then Daniels.
Right. Yeah, I would agree with that. Alex, any other thoughts?
Nah, I'm right there with you.
How come I could figure out everyone else's so quickly and I can't figure out my own?
Yeah, that's the problem with the gig.
Anything writing on it? Here, I'll throw you a question. I'll throw the question out there, and this roster may look familiar, Kevin. I'm just kidding. I'm not gonna do it.
Okay. All right. We're gonna hit up the last one, and this is Terry over on YouTube. If Saquon breaks the record, should he win the MVP? I could see the argument on this, right? This is a record that's been around for 40 years. To it, the last running back that won the MVP was in 2013. Adrian Peterson won the MVP over Peyton Manning's historic 55 touchdown season and was over 5,000 yards, right? Like, and Saquon's had a better year than AP did during that season, and no quarterbacks had as good of a year as Peyton did that year. It was a historic offense.
I didn't agree with that year either.
Oh, I didn't agree with it either.
But
should he win the MVP? Maybe. Will he? No.
Right. And that's kind of where I'm at too, is this has become such a quarterback award that
he'll win.
Here's why he shouldn't. Here's why Saquon shouldn't. The Eagles are NFC contenders even without Saquon.
Yeah.
And they have been for the last 4 years. Saquon might put them over the top, but they're in the exact same place that they would have been in without Saquon.
Potentially, yeah.
Josh Allen and Joe Burrow.
Oh yeah, you take Joe Burrow out of Cincy. That's a
8 for Joe Burrow.
Same thing, Allen, right? I mean, it's the LeBron James thought process, right? There were years LeBron James didn't win the MVP, just because the NBA was tired of giving it to LeBron James.
Yeah.
LeBron James should in all seriousness, and I'm not a big James fan. Jordan's better. I don't care. Come fight me. LeBron James should probably have 8 or 9 MVPs.
Yeah. The same could be said
Like,
of Jordan too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. They just got tired of it. Like, there's nothing that Nikola Jokic could do this year to win him the MVP.
He could
There's
have
nothing.
most
He
historic
could average, he could average 40, 15, and 9.5. And they would not give it to Nikola Jokic again.
They're like, well, have you seen?
Yeah,
Have you seen this other guy? Let me show you.
Yeah. Anything else? Anything else?
Seen
They
this
want to expand the
non-Serbian?
brand. They want to expand the brand. So the same guy, they're not going to give it to the same guy.
Right.
So it's an interesting thought. And I want him to break it. But no, it doesn't mean he's the most valuable player. He's not.
Fair enough. Any other thoughts on this one?
Nah.
All righty. Well, guys, that's going to take us down here to the end of it. Any final thoughts out there for the viewers and listeners?
Hell of a year. Hell of a year.
Yeah.
So, Terrence, if you're still with us, good luck, man. I know you have a week 18. Seems like everybody else is pretty well wrapped up. So, congratulations to all of those who took home the cash and the trophy. Better luck next year to all who came up just a bit short, myself included in a lot of leagues. But if you are playing for a week 18 championship, like Derek said earlier, we are not going to have a live show Friday night, but you can still find us at Good Old Boys FF wherever you consume your social media content. So hit us up, let us know what dilemma you're facing, and we will put in our 2 cents and kind of let you know what we would do. And best of luck to those still fighting for a championship.
Absolutely. I do find it funny that we get this comment as much as we do, where it's this show is so good at it's every stage of beard growth.
That's right.
So,
Although I'm a little thicker than I have been in weeks past.
well, I'm a little.
Derek's a little thinner. Derek trimmed his up.
Yeah. We had to shimmy that down a little bit because that was getting
we have some
a
Christmas
little much. Yeah, that was that. There we go. That's what we'll chalk it up to. So.
I got stuck in my quarter zip.
Exactly. Kev over on YouTube saying, "Have a good one, fellas." All righty. Any final thoughts out there for the viewers and listeners?
Nah.
All righty.
YouTube, like, subscribe. Thank you. We appreciate you guys tuning in and listen to the three of us go on and on. But we have a hell of a lot of fun doing it, and seemingly it seems like it's worked out for a good number of you. So we're happy to see that.
Absolutely. Appreciate everybody tuning in, chiming in. Appreciate all the interaction throughout the season. Like Kevin said, it makes it a lot of fun for us to be able to chat and interact with you guys. So do appreciate everybody tuning in. We'll be back next Tuesday, 11 p.m. Eastern. Make sure that you hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit the bell notification, all that stuff. So that way you can get those notifications there. We're going to go live year round every Tuesday, and we got a lot of content ready to go as we start gearing up here towards next season. And have some fun stuff and some fun shows planned throughout the off season there as well. So hopefully we'll see everybody throughout the off season here. But that's going to do it for us tonight. He's Kevin. He's Alex. I am Derek. Be safe. Toodaloos.